The air of the alien marketplace was thick with heat, voices, and the metallic clatter of chains. Lanterns burned with pale blue fire, casting light across rows of cages where beings from distant worlds were displayed like animals. The crowd pressed closer to the main platform, eager for the next lot. The announcer's voice, harsh and guttural, echoed across the square. Next, one of the rarest creatures from the outer colonies. A beauty unlike any other. From the shadows, a young woman was dragged forward. She stumbled, her wrists bound in iron, her eyes wide with terror. Her body bore no covering. Her captors had stripped her of dignity as much as freedom. The crowd roared, some with cruel laughter, others with hunger in their eyes. She tried to shrink, her long dark hair falling across her face, but there was nowhere to hide. In the back of the crowd, a lone figure watched. A human, broad-shouldered, wearing the dust-stained coat of a traveler. His name was Daniel Hayes, a former soldier who had wandered far from Earth. He had seen slavery before on distant worlds, but something in the way the girl trembled struck through his hardened armor. The auctioneer barked. "We start the bidding at 200 credits. Hands shot up. The numbers climbed. 200 became 4. 4 became 6. The girl's chest rose and fell in shallow panic, her lips forming silent prayers. Daniel stepped forward. 1,000. The crowd turned. A murmur rippled through the mass. No one had expected such a leap. The auctioneer grinned, greedy and surprised. 1,000. Do I hear more? Silence. Even the wealthiest patrons lowered their hands. A human spending so much coin in one breath was unheard of. The hammer came down with a heavy crack. Sold! The chains were shoved into Daniel's hands. The girl flinched, expecting more cruelty, but instead Daniel pulled his coat from his shoulders. He wrapped it around her trembling form, covering her at once. She gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "You're safe now," he murmured. They left the square under suspicious stares. Daniel led her through the narrow alleys until they reached a quiet inn at the edge of the district. He rented a room, guiding her gently inside. She sat on the bed, clutching the coat tight around herself, watching him with mistrust. He knelt in front of her. "My name's Daniel. You don't have to fear me. What's yours?" For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a voice like fragile glass, she whispered, "Leora." Her story came in fragments. She had been taken from her homeworld during a raid, sold from one set of hands to another until she landed in that cursed auction house. Every step of the tale weighed heavy on Daniel's chest. He had fought wars believing he was a man of justice, yet here in this alien world, justice felt like a forgotten word. "You won't be sold again," he said firmly. "Not while I breathe." She looked at him with disbelief, then with something softer, hope flickering for the first time in months. Days passed. Daniel arranged for forged papers to free her from any record of ownership. He bought her clothes, simple but sturdy, and never once looked at her with the hunger she had grown used to in others' eyes. Instead, he taught her how to walk the streets without fear, how to smile again. At night, when the city's neon glow faded and silence crept in, she would sit by the window and whisper old songs from her homeland. Daniel listened, not understanding the words, but feeling the ache and beauty in them. One night she turned to him and asked, "Why did you buy me?" He held her gaze. "Because no one deserves to be treated like that. And because I couldn't stand watching them strip away what made you human." Her eyes shimmered. She reached out, taking his hand. Hesitant at first, then firmer. "You gave me back more than freedom. You gave me dignity. But freedom came with danger. Those who ran the auctions did not take kindly to a buyer who disrupted their business. One evening, as Daniel and Leora walked through the market, 3 men blocked their path. Their weapons gleamed under the lantern light. "Hand her over," one snarled. "She's worth more than you can carry." Daniel stepped forward, shielding Leora. "She's not for sale." The fight was brutal. Daniel moved like the soldier he once was, fists and steel meeting the thug's head-on. When it was done, the men lay groaning in the dirt. Daniel's knuckles bled, his breath ragged, but Leora was untouched. She ran to him, pressing the coat back over his shoulders now. "You can't keep risking yourself for me," she whispered. He smiled, weary but certain. "For you, I'd risk more than this." Weeks later, the two boarded a freighter bound for a quiet colony on the edge of known space. The stars stretched out beyond the viewport, endless and new. Leora leaned her head on Daniel's shoulder, wrapped in his coat still, though now it was less for cover and more for comfort. "Where will we go?" she asked softly. "Anywhere we want," Daniel answered. "Somewhere you can sing your songs without fear. Somewhere you can live." She closed her eyes, breathing steady, safe for the first time in years. And as the engines roared and the ship cut through the void, she knew that though she had been auctioned without clothing, she had been bought with something greater, compassion. And it was that compassion, not chains or credits, that would carry her into tomorrow. The freighter hummed as it cut across the stars, its engines leaving a silver trail in the void. Daniel stood by the viewport, staring into the endless stretch of constellations. Beside him, Leora wrapped herself in the same coat he had first placed around her shoulders the day he bought her freedom. She leaned her head gently against his arm. For the first time in years, her eyes weren't filled with fear, but peace. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. "Spending so much for me." Daniel turned to her, his eyes steady, his words certain. "Credits are nothing. What I bought that day wasn't property. It was a chance to give you back your life. And that's worth more than anything in this universe." Leora's lips curved into a smile, small but radiant in its fragility. She tightened the coat around her, not because she needed it anymore, but because it had become a symbol of safety, dignity, and a bond forged in compassion. As the freighter drifted into hyperspace, the neon lights of the cruel marketplace were left far behind. For Leora, the chains of her past dissolved into stardust. And though she had once been auctioned without clothing, she was now clothed in freedom, trust, and a human's unwavering kindness. The stars ahead promised not captivity, but a future. Together,